Shun saw the Lulu lock and he's like, get me Kha'Zix for this 5th pick. I'm gonna pop off.
Yeah, they're looking to 5v5 this one. They're looking to, again, enable their AD carry and kind of, you know, it's a tale as old as time in this particular meta. God, 13.11 cannot, or even 13.12 to be perfectly honest, cannot come soon enough. We get the Realm mid-scope update, we get all the changes, all different carries and such. Gonna be a good time. Zeri and Yuumi are put into the ground. That would be nice to see, as they don't even get bans attributed to them. But EDG do find themselves with their backs up against the wall. They are definitely not feeling the greatness after that game number 1. We'll see if they can change it around for game number 2. But BLG feeling so good about the start of this split. One of 2 undefeated teams only left in the split. We only had 1 week of play, 1.5 weeks of play, if you will, and we only have 2 teams left undefeated. That's how close it can be here in the LPL. But we are going to jump onto the Rift for the second game of this best of 3. We'll see if BLG can close it out in a 2-0, get themselves to 3-0 in the season, or if EDG have something else to say about this series.
Their eyes are set onto Mako.
They're looking for him. They are going to get the flash out of him. They get the knock. Oh, but it's so much damage! And he underestimated how much he could go for. The last Infernum shot will not do it. And Mako proves a little bit too much for first blood against BLG.
And that's triple summoners coming out of the bottom lane of BLG, as Mako's the one that gets the first blood, just a little bit under in terms of the damage and what Elk was able to provide to that. But most importantly, on taking that tower shot was just not ideal. But BLG dropping the ball very early on shouldn't be too much of a problem, because it is just gold going into a Lulu who is going to work towards that Ardent Sensor. But we see this fight getting engaged by BLG, catching Mako off guard as they realize that Leaf just wasn't here. He reset, but this tower shot was so unfortunate. Bit of a misplay from On as well. Just 1 pixel too far in and he ended up dead. Something really interesting is that Mako got first blood and now he's working towards that Ardent Sensor for that first item. I have to shut up for that.
Oh! Loads of damage coming out here from Shun. He will get caught out though by the charm, which means he falls down and he is dead. No flash on Yagao to try and take this one back, as this Mako Lulu doing so much. And that is Mako with 2 kills on the board. And he might have even looked for a third onto On.
BLG just taking fights that they shouldn't be doing. But we see On being the first one getting engaged on by JJ here, where BLG, they thought they had everyone around. Yagao flashes over and commits to this, but the Jinx ultimate also makes up for that lack of damage, which surprises BLG off guard.
Yeah, it really does. And now we're going to see Yagao getting jumped on here. He's not really got many places to go. The charm is decent. JJ picks up the kill. EDG much more comfortable in this early game comparatively to the last, and they are 4-1 to the good. Oh, as I say that, flash over.
Time,
red and white to green and white. Mako, you thought a little bit too confident. That's a shutdown over to the Aphelios. Good decisive work here from the BLG bot lane.
Mako knew that Shun wasn't anywhere near, so he was more than confident walking up and eagling on with that ward placed towards their jungle. But he did not expect Elk to be flashing over the wall and calling Mako's bluff, so that is going to be a kill going into this Aphelios' hand. Bit of a breather for them, but no, these major objectives are still up and available for both sides. As we get a replay of what happened, it is Mako just defending off this pink ward, and he thought he could just walk up to this as Elk was wrapping it around the wall. But no, Mako did not expect Elk to have such an aggressive flash in the end. We've managed to pick up 2, potentially 3 plates in this top side, as we do see Shun dropping that Rift Herald for Elk alone in the bottom lane. So he is going to get 2 plates, 1 plate only, as JJ is hovering as a response. He's alone in this bottom lane right now. He should be careful.
Yeah, he's dead. I mean, Elk... It's moments like that that really just kind of think, you know, you kind of have to really think about what you're trying to achieve in that moment there. Elk really not coming out on top of that trade, and can just ulti right in top of it. There's going to be a TP in. They're going to try and see if they can maybe get On out, but he was locked in and loaded. Flash in from Ala as he looks to try and jump onto Elk. We'll get the knockdown down and force an immediate flash for Fofo as Fofo was engaging. Really late TP coming out here from Yagao. I don't think he's going to be able to get anything from this whatsoever. And BLG just kind of sitting on their hands a little bit, not expecting EDG to be so aggressive, and they get punished. And they changed up the draft just a little bit. They said, all right, we won't lock in a solo laner this time. We'll lock in a jungler in terms of the first pick for the side of EDG, and it is working out wonders. 3-1-1 here for JJ, and you can see Ala just kind of immediately TPing down and just kind of saying, yeah, I can go for this.
Yeah, and Elk was holding on to that flash, but Ala getting that flash Q onto the Aphelios was absolutely nuts. I was honestly expecting Shun to tank the charm for Elk here, but I guess every man for themselves, as the TP from Yaga was extremely late. I honestly think he should have TP'd towards that tier 1 tower, but it was already the play done and dusted.
You can see him scratching his head. I am too, my dude, because I don't understand what you're trying to gain from that play.
The only reason why BLG is able to find so many successful kind of skirmishes is because On is just placing these wards down without a care in the world. But when you're at a CS deficit, a gold deficit for this game state, you're not allowed to be making these plays. I mean, he does get a ward down at the very end, but doesn't even go over the wall, and that's a kill into Leaves' pockets. But On playing a little bit disrespectfully, not playing alongside Shun, and the win condition, which is going to be about those major 5v5s where you do need someone behind you because you're a very squishy Rakan, and JJ has his eyes locked onto you every single fight. BLG looking desperate, but EDG utilizing that mobility all the way and just like kind of utilizing the amount of time that Ala was able to buy and shutting down Shun, who was the scrambler left behind by BLG. And now the Baron and the Dragon is going to be spawning in a mere matter of seconds. BLG struggling to find angles because their mid-jungle not as loud of a performance in this game too.
I mean, On will die here because he hasn't got a flash. He's just... Yeah, I mean, that's just not what's happening. Having a much worse game comparatively to game number 1. We hyped up his Rakan, and it feels like he's just forgotten how the champion functions. He just doesn't know how his limits anymore.
Yago does have the flash, no Tibbers. They're finding an angle into Fofo.
Oh, Fofo did have the flash, does have the Spirit Rush up in a couple of seconds, but the explosive cast is good to bring him in. Can they finish him off? Yes, they can. While that's happening, though, you've committed 3 members on that bot side. You're going to have to convert this into a dragon because you're just losing that inhibitor. There's nothing else to it. Never mind, they're going to try and turn around and make this a 5v4, but they're on vision. Elk is a little bit by himself. They now know where everybody is. The inhibitor goes down. On looking for an engage. He doesn't have the quickness just yet. He's waiting for that cooldown to come down, and he's already getting burnt out so much. JJ doesn't get over the wall, and now they jump straight down on top of Leave, but Leave is just not killable right now. And what looked like BLG looking for a potential fight could be the end of this game.
And Shun does get a return kill onto Mako. Is it going to be enough?
It's tight. They're not quite able to get it. But EDG, they're still looking for more. They're still looking to see if they can burn down Bit, and they should be able to. That is going to be an easy kind of turnaround fight here for EDG and BLG. Literally, that one ward just does them in. They get caught out on the flank, and it means that EDG were 100% ready for them.
Yeah, and my eyes were just focused onto Elk throughout that teamfight with the red and white available as well. But that ward spotting out BLG's flank onto the carriers of EDG really worked wonders. As On, I mean, he was already so low in terms of HP, but the Cyanolt got thrown onto Elk's face. The Vi is also targeting the Aphelios throughout the entire fight with the peel of the Cyan as well. So Leave is in a very good position. So I think this was a very good fight for EDG to take. But of course, the sidestep coming out of the Jinx as well, but Shun flashing in and kind of finishing the bottom lane of EDG was the rare hope of light of hope for BLG to stay in this game. But I still think a massive win for EDG as they were able to get this mid lane inhibitor and now work towards this Baron vision where they can also threaten the idea of it and dance around that vision.
Yeah, able to dance around it. Speaking of dancing around vision, Shun has been spotted out on some as they look to try and kind of push for this one here. Still a 5,000 gold lead here for EDG. They got the dragon off that as well. I feel like if BLG had just kind of burst down that dragon, then maybe look for a fight or something like that. I don't know. There's so many if, buts, and maybes when it comes to this game. Definitely not looking as clean here for BLG. But look, we've seen this from them before. They dropped an uncharacteristic, or probably very characteristic game to RA earlier on. And now we can see...
Oh my lord!
On just about gets out, and On's only getting his Shurelya's Revelry now. That shows you how far behind he is to Mako. Mako has an Ardent Sensor and the Shurelya's compared to just the Shurelya's here for On. On is basically just not really kind of, you know, on the same level as in terms of supporting as this Lulu is.
I think BLG, their best hope right now is forcing a 5v5 and just praying that they out macro the enemy team. But Ala, he's ulting.
He's ulting, doesn't hit onto Elk, and will take a tiny bit of damage on the way back from that particular play. Ooh, JJ forcing a flash out there from Elk, and going to turn his attention immediately there. They're going to jump onto the Jinx and try and burst her down. Oh, the ultimate thrown, and Leave is dead. That means your consistent DPS is no longer available in this fight, and Elk can go forward knowing that he will not be touched. Is a good charm to stop Bin from moving forward and trying to stop Allah, who's just tanking so much, but there is only so much you can tank. He will flash away. He has a blast cone as well, but they find the AD carry, and what was that, Allah? You just so lucky that the rest of the team have backed away because they've now left Elk on his own. He's a little bit isolated here. Charm goes forward. They don't quite catch him out. The rest of BLG moving forward on top of Mako and Allah. It's not really a combination you're going to be able to take lightly, and ends up being a 1-for-1 shun for Leave. Such a long fight, but BLG, they still have options.
And that's exactly what BLG needed to come back into the game. Let EDG make those mistakes, commit the ultimates onto Shun, who had the Edge of Night. I believe he tanked both the Ahri and Vile for the start of this game, as we see the initial engage from Allah dodged by Elk, and of course, Elk also burning the flash very preemptively, as he just avoided every single engage angle from the side of EDG. But with so many abilities committed to this Kha'Zix, no one was really threatening Elk in this fight, and it instantly killed Jinx with that Gravitum gun as well. So, I mean, a really well fought out fight for BLG, and they can regain some vision here.
They can indeed. We're going for another fight. They're going to jump straight in on top of Yagao. He is dead. Allah coming in now with the Scion drifting off to the side. Elk able to kind of dodge him out for the moment, but the Kha'Zix Shun is dead. Resets for Fofo as he looks for a little bit more. The Zap going to land onto the Raptors and therefore not slow anybody down. On is probably the next target. Good Gale Force from Elk. Keep himself away from the oncoming vibe, but I mean, it's just proving too much here for BLG. EDG just have them in so many angles, and they just can't get the damage down. They can't get their carries to safety. Bin will flash. He'll get charmed though. Explosive Cast gets eaten by the Banshee's Veil, and Bin is only going to be falling as quickly as he possibly can. 3 for nothing. Elk trying to make something happen in this mid lane. Has got a shielding, green and white, to try and maybe make a fight happen, but I mean, he's just waiting for that LDR. He needs something that can burn down through Allah.
Bin was desperately trying to fight a flank angle, but BLG, they want to contest this Baron. They want to flip it. Yago does have the flash tippers available. Shun is slowly making their way here, but EDG not going to flip it just quite yet. Yep.
They have to respect that Shun was coming out. These death timers not as long as they probably hoped them to be, and now we're in a weird situation. Good in dodge there from On, and Mako is dead. They're going to try and burst down the rest of this team, but the Super Mega Death Rocket is good enough to try and tickle down these health bars. BLG are keeping this game chaotic, and honestly, in the weird sense, they're kind of coming out on top.
They're rushing Baron. Bin is TPing to the Baron, and they're just going to flip it.
They're going to flip it. Allah and Fofo both have TP. They're going to try and maybe get on top of this one here. The double TP on the backside of this fight. They now know that there's so much damage there on the Shun. They can't be able to. They can't let him die. If he dies, it's all over. He gets killed to the Baron. They have to either back away or finish it. That is your call right now. Allah goes in. It's a 100% flip. Who can get the damage down at the right time? It's going to be Allah. Scion gets in, gets the Baron, and EDG clean it all up. BLG just not looking on form in this one. They try to keep it scrappy, and they've been punished by a much more composed EDG.
And that was the final Hail Mary coming out of EDG, but unfortunately Shun getting picked up early by Fofo on this Ahri, taking too much damage from the initial engage, as they were fighting without a smite in the very end. Like you said, Allah secures the Baron, but it does seem like the series going to a 1-1.
It's going all three. Not really a lot that a full tank Gragas and a Kha'Zix can do, unfortunately, against the tanks. So we're going to be going to third game. BLG having a dominant game number 1. EDG having just as dominant game number 2. And that is a fantastic win coming out here from EDG. Much more like him to see them kind of, bouncing back even after such a tough loss.